Morning, everyone. This will be an anniversary edition of August 1st. And you guys know what August 1st is. Now, of course, we all know about the user-activated soft fork that took place a couple of years ago. But I wanted to take this opportunity and do a little reflection on the creation of Bcash. Some people like to call it Bitcoin Cash. I don't know why they want to confuse the brand, but on this channel, we have always referred to it as Bcash in order not to confuse our audience. And today is its second birthday. And I would like to reflect on this day and talk about what we remember, the good, the bad, and what is going into the future. And for this episode, I am joined by a couple of usual suspects and someone new. We have Jimmy Song, Leah Wald, and John Carvalho, who has his own amazing history with Roger and the Bcash incident. How you guys doing? Hey, John, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
All right. Jimmy, how you doing?
I am good. I do take issue with the Bcash label since there's now two Bcashes. So there's confusion as to which Bcash we're referring to. I think we should say Bcash 1 and Bcash 2 just to confuse their brand even further.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And Leah, how's Story doing? I see him walking around behind you there.
Yeah, he's having good fun. We'll see if he runs off during this show, but thanks. It's good to see you guys again.
All right, cool.
And
yeah,
good to
there
see
he
you,
is. I just put you on the big screen for a minute.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's not never good in the morning. But all right, there we go. Yes, good morning, everybody. All right, this is gonna be fun.
All right, so I'm not even sure where to begin. We can talk about the price, how it did, but you know what? I think I know where to begin. Let's I'm gonna play the last minute of John Carvalho's interview, also known as Bitcoin Error Log, with Roger, and as a little bit of a commemorative, and then we will go from there. Here we go. Hope you guys can hear it.
Confuse people about what Bitcoin Cash is. And so there's only two people that call it Bcash. It's people that are trying to engage in that social manipulation, or it's people that have been manipulated and brainwashed by that social manipulation. And I don't think you're one of the people that's been socially brainwashed. I think you're one of the ones trying to do that brainwashing. And so I don't appreciate it. I'm not going to stand for it. Life is busy. Life is short. Okay. I don't need to be standing here.
I'm going to mirror a rebuttal the same comment. I think that there are only three people that want to call Bitcoin Cash. You and Jahan and your sock puppets. Okay? Because there's nobody else.
I've never hired a single sock puppet. I don't need to be insulted. But please post this to the entire world. How incredibly rude you are to me.
Hey, I'm sorry, man. All right, guys, it's over.
Oh my God.
Thanks for watching. Adios. My very sincere, I'm sorry, man.
The best part of that video is when Roger says, I want the world to see how incredibly rude you are to me, as if rudeness itself is the thing that will get everyone outraged. Oh gosh, I guess he hasn't been on the internet in about 20 years or something.
Yeah, and he's talking about me being rude while the result is a meme of him with his middle finger all over the internet.
So, do you want to screen share that epic, famous picture?
Oh yeah. Well, it'll be hard to find it in the video. I'm sure we can Google for it, but a lot of people are now
sure
using
Roger
it.
Ver middle finger will get you exactly.
Yeah, it sure will.
Maybe even just Roger Ver would get it.
Yeah,
actually,
I wonder if it shows up.
How do we get
It needs to be top of the search results. I don't know. He's known for that, isn't he?
No, it should be there. I'm trying to look. I'm trying to find the Bitcoin Cash halving clock, and it's hard because obviously the Google search doesn't recognize it, and it keeps taking me to Bitcoin, which as it should. Is this it? Yay! There it is. Okay, cool. All right, guys. So
you're not screen sharing, so we can't see it.
Oh, I'm not screen sharing anymore. Oh wait, I didn't screen share the video of John Carvalho. It was only audio.
No, it was
No.
only
Mhm.
Oh damn, I
only
knew I
audio.
forgot. Oh
They
man,
had to look at our mugs.
Oh damn! All right, my bad on that. Where's my Zoom? Hold on. I'm gonna do
And
that
Jimmy's
now.
awesome new hat.
Dude, your game's off this morning, man.
I know
What's
it's
going on?
earlier.
Is it
I'm normally at the gym at this time, not doing.
Yeah, I like what you said yesterday though. Like we were talking about how early we are gonna do this, and he goes, I'm gonna have to skip the gym this morning. I really hope it's leg day. Like, yeah.
I think you need more trading views, Babs.
Exactly what washed by that social
Yeah.
manipulation. I don't think you're the
I'm
one
gonna do it right
that's
this time.
been socially brainwashed. I think you're one of the ones trying to do that brainwashing, and so I don't appreciate it. I'm not going to stand for it. Life is busy. Life is short. I don't need to be
I'm going to mirror rebuttal the same comment. I think that there are only three people that want to call Bitcoin Cash Bitcoin Cash. You and Jahan and sock puppets. Okay? Because there's nobody else.
I've never hired a single.
There you go.
There you are. There you are.
Sock puppet. I don't need to be insulted, but please post this to the entire world. How incredibly rude you are to me.
Hey, I'm sorry, man.
All right. We'll talk about this later. Hey, the other thing I really wanted to mention before I forget, because my game is really off this morning. It's what happens when you're at a different time. Where is the price? So, man, I was really praying the last 2 weeks that the price of Bitcoin and therefore Bcash would drop just a little bit, because unfortunately, due to bad timing, the value of one Bcash at the moment is $4 higher than at its opening price. I really wanted it to be in the red. I really, really did. Like even 2 days ago, the price of Bcash dropped to $260. So that means that if we did the show 2 days ago, the value of Bcash would have been down 20% against the US dollar. And that is worse than like 90% of fiat currencies during that same 2-year span. Like that's what I really wanted for the show. Like what a drop. Yeah.
You could always just show the BCH BTC chart. Sure, that's not very pretty.
No, nothing about BCH is pretty.
I know, but I really wanted it to be down against the dollar, right? Like it's too easy to compare the Bitcoin Cash price to Bitcoin, right? But when you show people that the US dollar has gained 20% on your currency, and but even with such a move, even with a $4 rise in 2 years, the Ukrainian currency was a better store of value since August 1st, 2017, and they continue to have to battle Russia, and they had virtually hyperinflation 3 years ago. And that currency turned out to be a better store of value since August 1st, 2017. So that's actually pretty
Tone, it's so that they can, pay for coffee. I mean, isn't that more important than, losing money?
Right. Yeah, the chart versus Bitcoin is really bad. You guys are down right here. So again, a few days ago, you were down 80%. At the moment, you are only down 70%. So 2 weeks ago, not 2 days ago, sorry. So at the moment, you are down, and I double checked this because this chart isn't that accurate, but basically, where's my little calculator? The price of Bcash at the opening was $320, and the price of Bitcoin on that day was just under 3,000. It was 2,854. So you were worth 0.112 Bitcoin at the opening, and now 2 years later, you are sitting at just above 3%. And I keep waiting for it to consistently be under 3%, because that's what I like to call it C-cash, and below 2% it's D-cash, and below 1% it's F-cash. All right, guys, your thoughts, reflections, and we tried explaining how insane this was from the start. Anything you want to say that's like different that you didn't expect? Like, I didn't expect it to last this long. I'll be honest. I thought this thing would die immediately, but it turned out to be a lot worse. You know, dying immediately would not have suckered people in. It would not have wasted years of people's time. Like, sometimes it's better for things to die quick. I don't know, John, just general thoughts?
Guys,
Yeah,
I'm gonna jump off.
Yeah, thank you for
I
joining.
gotta jump off. But good seeing you, and good seeing you, John. And also, just really quickly, what comes to mind, and then sorry, is the cruise, which was the first time that I met Roger. And after hearing all of you guys, and everything was absolutely true. And that was right before the fork, which was, as you guys remember, on stage, I asked him about, and he totally skirted, obviously. But man, the cult following was disgusting, and exactly what you guys had said. Okay, bye. Bye, guys. Have a fun one. I'll be
Bye,
listening.
Leah.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Yeah, I mean, it did last a while, but I guess, you know, they have a lot of money behind it, and they did make some money either on Bitcoin or off of, you know, scamming through liquidity on Bitcoin Cash. I doubt they made as much as they just held Bitcoin. But I hear an echo now, by the way. But it's still around. The community seems to have separated a bit more lately. They're less infiltrating on Bitcoin, but they still own, you know, Bitcoin.com and RBTC, and I don't know. I always thought it was kind of ironic that they're the ones using BTC instead of using BCH, and they, you know, they don't admit that they're just trying to co-opt the brand. Are you there?
Sure.
Yeah,
Hold
yeah.
on.
I don't. I think Tone can't hear
I don't know
you.
why
I'm not really. Going.
That's probably my
Yeah,
bad.
I mean, yeah. So can you hear me, Tone?
Yeah, I got you. Yep, go for it.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, when I look back at 2 years, I just remember all of the different things that went into this whole thing, and you know, UASF and SegWit and the debate around it. It was a flurry of activity, and the YouTube video that we did 2 years ago, Tone, that's kind of what put us on the map, I feel like, because that day when we went for something like 8 hours in a row, and we had like 7 different guests, and you know, people were coming in and out, and you know, we were being shown on like trading floors because enough people were interested on what was going to happen, and we were covering this thing live, and you know, we were waiting for that first block and everything else. That's what I remember about it. The thing that I think a lot of people forget is that Roger really didn't come around to BCH, at least until 2x failed, and that was the other big thing that happened that that a lot of people forget, is that SegWit 2x was another fork that was going to happen that didn't go through, largely because everyone realized it didn't make any economic sense whatsoever to try it, and the people that actually you know, like, didn't get what they wanted, they're the ones that ended up flocking to BCH, including people like Roger Ver. And of course, he spent lots and lots of money promoting it. And I'd like to take a little bit of credit in him sort of scaling back on that after the cruise. I think he pretty much stopped, you know, promoting the Bitcoin.com brand. You know, he laid off a whole bunch of his staff after that cruise. I mean, he spent. So this is the thing about trying to make something a method of payment only. And you know, if you don't have real decentralization, there isn't real you know, desire to really hold the currency. So it gets traded around, price rise, the actual scarcity, and the decentralization and everything else. So, and we'll talk more about that as we discuss the other split that happened and so on. But for me, looking back, it's very clear that what happened was that they gave up decentralization for this very useless feature of having bigger blocks, and that's cost them quite a bit.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was pretty ironic that
Go ahead, John.
we did increase the block size anyway. We just didn't do it
Mm-hmm.
through a hard fork. So like they chose literally just the risky version of the story. But you gotta give Roger credit on one angle. The coin that he backed has lasted a lot longer than the coin that the New York Agreement backed. You know, we had all these big companies trying to make a fork of Bitcoin, and they failed. And then all it took was, you know, Roger and maybe Bitmain to get behind their fork, and it still survives to this day. Not that many people use it, and not that the price is doing well, but you can at least give them that.
Yeah, no. By the way, I found that video, but there's a few of them. We did that 8-hour live stream when their fork was happening, and that's that other part that you were talking about, Jimmy. I still need to find that video of that August 1st video of Bcash splitting off. That was also another very popular and long live stream with lots of guests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not only that, the whole drama. I think at least looking back now and thinking about what John just said, it occurs to me that cognitive dissonance can last a really long time. It's crazy to me that there's still people on BCH 2 years after, when it's clear that it's not working, it hasn't worked and won't work. Yet there are people that still believe in it. That I don't know, maybe they're all sock puppets, like John said in his video with Roger. But the fact that there's still kind of that large, or I don't know how large they are, but the contingent of people that think that they know what the hell they're doing, or that they actually believe in Roger, or believe in Jihan, or believe in whoever it is, and I mean, they somehow still think that that's the way to go. It's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, I think that's what happens when you choose a shit coin and the price goes down and you get stuck in holding the bag. You know, you start off thinking, oh, I just want to earn more Bitcoin by trading shit coins. Then you get underwater and you say, well, let me think of narratives that will allow me to like be comfortable thinking that maybe one day this will pump harder than Bitcoin. And you say, okay, I have to start shilling this shit and start believing it, because it's the only way I can chill convincingly. So you start just kind of becoming what you never intended to become, just as a bag holder.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how the things that you own end up owning you, and that's kind of what's happened to those people. Tone?
Yeah, no, I'm with you guys. I'm actually looking for that other video, trying to search my own YouTube stream. Yeah.
How about show the transaction.
The transactions.
Yeah, show those stories that we have ready. You should share your screen.
Yeah, we're gonna do that in 1 second. I still want to attempt.
It's actually pretty amazing how few people use Bitcoin Cash. Like when you look at that transaction highway website, I'm like, even I'm surprised. Like it's just empty.
Right. No, exactly right. And
well, I mean, there's nowhere to use it, right? Like, I mean, you can like send it back and forth with each other, I guess, but really it's for commerce sake. And the thing about commerce is that the biggest thing in a method of payment, use case, is that you need a lot of merchants to use it and to adopt it. And the thing is, none of them do. The few that do want liquidity, and you don't really have that much liquidity on BCH. So, whereas Bitcoin, you're going to get lots of liquidity. So it doesn't really make sense for a lot of them. And the only ones that have really pushed it are, companies like Bitmain, and even they had to abandon, selling their miners for BCH because they had competitors that came in and they were like, okay, well, you can pay us in Bitcoin or in US dollars or something. And that's a lot more convenient for them. So yeah, it's kind of funny how things have worked out.
All right, let's go back to screen share, guys. Yeah, so I think the reason I can't find it is because that video might have been on the World Crypto Network.
Yeah, it was definitely on the World Crypto Network. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure I could find it. Do you want me to go find it?
No, it's okay. And so this was that video of the Bcash split. It has 46,000 views. It's one of my better ones. And right here, it's called Bitcoin Cash Hashrate Civil War. And in fact, like even when I was Googling for it, it's like I had to go through like Reddit because this was the awesome cover of Thank You World of for my artwork. That was an absolute great cover. Like even when I search the exact title, like my own video doesn't even come up. It just shows up on Reddit and like other places that restreamed the video. So it's great. But hey, let's take a look at the hash rate and the transactions. So this is the hash rate, and let's see how we're doing. We want to definitely zoom in on this bad boy and look at the last 2 years. Boom, right there. There's the hash rate over the last 2 years since pretty much its acceptance. And this is that early period where Bcash somehow magically ended up with more hash rate than Bitcoin, but that's because they were like super creating blocks, and people were dumb enough to buy it off of them. And that's probably why their halving is coming sooner, which is another thing I kind of want to talk about. But right now, Bitcoin hash rate continues to rise, and the Bcash hash rate continues to crash. And if I zoom in on that even more, in the last year, and maybe even the last 6 months, I mean, this is dangerous. And that's probably why it was so easy for them to orchestrate a 51% attack and reverse transactions a couple of months ago.
I think that was BSV, but yeah,
no, that was Bitcoin Cash. They returned.
They had a 51% attack.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't an attack. It was two miners getting together, having 51%, and reversing transactions that the community.
Oh yeah, I do remember that story. It was they had to reverse some SegWit related thing or something like that.
No, it was somebody. No, it was like a borderline hack. It was like there was a bunch of Bcash that were supposedly like lost because people were like screwing up and sending them to the wrong place, and someone
there were SegWit addresses or something, which obviously
and some miner or somebody smart decided to say, hey, you know what, there's so much Bcash trapped in these things, I'm just gonna write some code and take it all. And he did. And then two miners are like, no, we can't have this guy getting rich. So they go ahead and like reverse the transactions and destroyed those coins.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing about the hash rate. It tends to follow price, right? Like right now, BCH is at around 3% or 3.25% of Bitcoin, and that means it's going to have proportionately about 3.25% of the hash power versus Bitcoin because they have the same block reward. What's going to be interesting is when the halving happens a little bit earlier on BCH, their hashing power is going to drop with reference to Bitcoin by 50% for that period in between the two halvings. So it'll be even easier to attack. But here's the thing about BCH. It's a centralized coin at this point. It's very expensive to run a node, and we'll see a story about that very soon. And as a result, not many people run their own nodes. And what does that mean? That means that you're trusting the people that are running those nodes. And because those people running the nodes can hard fork and do whatever they want, and as it currently stands, it's a benevolent dictator for life model for their development. It's essentially Amory Sachet doing whatever the hell he wants with.
Well, no, wait, he quit.
He did?
Yeah.
He's still on it.
He quit.
On BC. He quit Bitcoin Unlimited. He didn't quit Bitcoin ABC.
What the hell's the difference?
Bitcoin Unlimited was an implementation of BCH, but he felt that trying to keep the two in sync was too difficult. So he basically quit Bitcoin Unlimited and stopped developing for them. He's doing only Bitcoin ABC, which is the reference client for BCH.
All right.
And because of that, anyway, he's the benevolent dictator for life. So if he decides all of a sudden that there's not enough security on BCH because of the halving or the time period in between or whatever, he can hard fork and say we're gonna inflate the currency more because we need to give the miners more incentive or something like that, which would be a reasonable thing to say. I mean, that's certainly the case right now. They don't have enough hash power or whatever, and he can subsidize them through inflation. And if he does that, there's no real recourse. You're not running your own node. You can't fork. You just kind of have to deal with whatever Emory wants. And this is the thing about altcoins, is that if you're centralized, you're always vulnerable to these to whatever the people that control it want to do. And they've done lots of crazy things. Part of the hash rate spike that you see early was because of the emergency difficulty adjustment algorithm, which was completely screwed up, and they had to hard fork away from it a couple months after it started because miners were jumping on and off because it was just so easy to mine on BCH for a while. This whole and they basically ended up subsidizing miners as a result of that, by the way, and that's the effect. They're going to have to pay for it with this halving, where they're going to have a reduction in hash rate. They like many central governments around the world have pushed off their problems to later, and they're going to feel it now, right? Like between the two halvings, they're going to have so little hash rate that it's going to be very, very easy to attack them. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody did. I'm not going to say that they will be, but it would be fairly easy for a miner to go do so.
Yeah, so Jimmy, you're absolutely right. The hash rate compared to Bitcoin's hash rate right now is exactly 3%, which is exactly where the price is. And people are asking, why is it having a month and a half faster? And I thought I answered it, but I'll do it one more time. Is because of basically right here, like this day alone.
You're not sharing the screen, Tone, so
God damn it.
know what you're pointing at.
My bad. All right, so literally this day right here, this is August 23rd. On this day alone, when the hash rate of Bcash went crazy up, and even in the first couple of days, they were producing blocks like every 15 seconds. So they got ahead by like 1,000 or so blocks just in the first month of its existence. And then whatever the hell happened on this day, basically Bcash has always been significantly lower priced than Bitcoin with, and they also set their, reset of their blocks differently. But in any case, in the first couple of months of Bcash's existence, they inflated with the blocks, and they printed a bunch of currency, and that's why they are now about a month and a half ahead. I'm trying to find where that thing is right here. So they are set to have a halving on April 8th, and we will, and that is really, really bad for them because. Not that I want to give Bcash people ideas, but if I was them, I would somehow, since they're dictators now, I would find a way to delay this halving to after Bitcoin, because having it before Bitcoin, it puts them in a lot of trouble. The moment this day hits, their profitability drops in half. So all those miners will immediately switch over to Bitcoin. You want this to be the other way. You want the miners that all of a sudden are not profitable in Bitcoin because of Bitcoin's halving to jump over to your chain. So they can prove that they are completely centralized in order to save their coin. That's what they would need, because the price of their coin will literally drop by at least 2, or it should, on or around this date, or not around, but like.
Well, so I don't know if the price will drop, but the hash rate will definitely drop, assuming the price stays the same. And here's the thing about the halving, and we're going to see this in Litecoin very soon.
Yeah, I was gonna
is
say that.
that yeah. When you have a halving on Bitcoin, it tends to increase the price because like people use it as a store of value, and when you're using it as a store of value, supply and demand are very important, and you have a much higher stock to flow ratio after that. When you're using it as a method of payment, nobody really cares as much about that. And Litecoin, like there's usually with Litecoin, if you look at the halving history, there tends to be a pump before the halving, but then like a big crash afterwards because people are like, oh, this is more speculation and everything. And we've kind of seen that in Litecoin. I think that's gonna be the same with Bitcoin Cash. This will be their first real halving. And we'll see when it happens that they're I guess we're gonna have to like book something for April 8th, Tone, because I'm sure people are gonna wanna see this whole thing. But yeah, it's going to matter, and there are going to be people that are going to have to prepare for the possibility of the security on BCH being low. But that said, currently their client makes it so that the last 10 blocks have to be in sync with everyone else, which is really, really centralized. Like you can't reverse anything. It's not really about proof of work anymore. It's going more towards proof of stake in that regard. It's like agreement with everyone else, rather than the actual work that was performed or electricity that was used or whatever. Instead of using that as the basis, it's now using that and something else, which is like if it's a bigger reorg than 10 blocks, and they don't allow it and so on. But who knows what they'll do, because they hard fork every 6 months, and who knows what hard fork they will introduce. It's possible that they'll delay this thing. The difficulty tends to adjust very quickly on their chain because they know that they're second banana to Bitcoin. So in order to adjust quickly and keep mining at least relatively stable, they did do this as a result of wanting miners to have more say in this stuff. That's probably the direction that they're going to go.
Yeah, John, I'll let you get in here real quick. Go for it.
Yeah, I think you guys are right as far as how the economics play out with the halving coming early, and how it will be tough to maintain the price and compete with Bitcoin when these things happen. But I think that it is hard to predict when this economic aspect will play out. Like, for example, I wouldn't be surprised if they use some resources to subsidize the price before the halving in order to bring the price to a higher plateau to see if they can get some liquidity out of people at pump prices to be able to deal with the halving. If you're looking at the difficulty chart, you can see the obvious times when hash rate from Bitcoin literally goes away from Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash in a spike, and then you see the inversion in the chart. But you can also see when it appears almost like there was a subsidizing of hash rate that disappeared when the price started to crash in 2018. If you look at that chart, you can see that there was a whole plateau of difficulty, and then it dropped off and it stayed down there. It's kind of recovered a little bit in the past months, but generally the hash rate has just kind of died. Yeah, like, so if you look at the middle there,
Go
go back to the 1 year. Go back to the 1 year.
Boom.
Go back to the all-time one.
That's
big spike.
Yeah. So you can see like it just kind of dropped off. Like it's like they subsidized the hash rate there somewhere, and then they stopped paying, and then the miners left. And then the price didn't really.
Well, so the subsidization, I think, was right around there was when they split and they needed to defend their side or something.
That's true. And if I remember it right, Roger moved hash rate from Bitcoin within Bitcoin.com mining pool to defend Bcash.
Yeah,
but I don't think they're going to get the hash rate back unless they pay for it. They'll either have to pay for it directly, or they'll have to pay for it by pumping the price and buying up liquidity to see if they can keep a higher plateau for miners to be able to sell into.
Yeah, I mean, there's no more money, right? I think Bitmain used so much of their resources for that sort of thing, and that's essentially bankrupted their company, and they've gotten into all sorts of financial trouble as a result of that. And if you look at the hash rate chart for BSV, I believe that their hash rate is consistently higher than the price, or what it should be based on their price. And that clearly speaks to somebody, probably Calvin subsidizing, their miners with, or like just mining at a loss essentially in order to do that. Who knows why they're doing that? But this is part and parcel of what happens when you have to subsidize like like the economic incentives don't line up, so somebody has to pour in money and lose a lot of it.
It'll be interesting to see how much of the open liquidity they actually were able to gobble up. Like if Roger and the supporters of Bitcoin Cash are able to gather up a great majority of the liquid Bitcoin Cash coins out there, they can basically keep it alive longer before the economics kill it. But if there's still a lot of people that would like to sell Bitcoin Cash waiting for a better price, its death will come much sooner. And that kind of has to do with the hash rate as well.
Yeah, we have another question about Bitcoin's hash rate after the halving, but I also want to comment that you're right, Jimmy. Like all these roads will eventually lead to all of these other coins becoming proof of stake. All these roads will lead to any coin that has halvings. They will realize how economically that makes no sense for their coin. They will all change their code to have infinite inflation in order to incentivize the miners until eventually it goes proof of stake. All these coins are already inflation on top of Bitcoin in a more insecure way with another currency. They don't have the angle of scarcity and hard money. So the only angles that they have is trying to be transactional currencies, no different than the fiat currencies. And all of them, whether it's Litecoin, whether it's Monero, whether it's Bcash or Bcash, the other one, all of them will eventually, become infinitely inflatable proof of stake coins over time. And the sooner you realize it, the sooner these things will go away. The sooner people realize it, the sooner they will go away. They have absolutely no long-term value proposition, zero.
Yeah, and I pointed this out in my debate with Roger Ver a while ago. Because they have such large blocks, they don't have much in fees coming into the miners. And that means the only reason the miners mine at all is because of the block reward. The thing is, the block reward, halves every 4 years, including the one that's coming up in about 250 days. Like even 9 years from now, the mining award is going to be so low that there's going to be virtually no security on the network. If you're trying to do any transaction that's like even over $500 worth of BCH, you're going to have to wait like 12 blocks because economically it's going to be feasible for somebody to reorg like 10 blocks for $500. So, it's economically rational for them to make it look like they've paid you, wait 10 blocks, and then do something else. So as a result of that, they've kind of put themselves in a bind. They either have to increase the block reward or decrease the block size. Decreasing the block size doesn't seem to be on the table, since that's the reason that they hard forked in the first place, and that's their big feature versus Bitcoin. So in a sense, they put themselves in a bind, and central banks do this all the time. Any centralized entity ends up doing this all the time, which is they put themselves in a position where they have to choose between the lesser of two evils. And I mean that, this is what happens when you have centralized governance, is that they're going to make crappy choices on behalf of everybody, and that's essentially what they've done.
All right, so let's talk about big blocks and how insanely crazy they are. This brings us to the second Bcash, and they had a bit of an incident recently. You want to tell us a little more about it, Jimmy?
Yeah, so apparently the BSV has been doing quote unquote a stress test of some kind, and essentially they you know, like had these gigantic blocks on their blockchain, and they are even crazier than BCH1, which is that they have blocks that are even more gigantic than BCH2. Well, BCH2 has more larger blocks than BCH1. Anyway, as a result, Money Button, which is Ryan X Charles's company, who ended up choosing BCH and then BSV, you know, he ended up, you know, their website went down because their full node went down because it ran out of memory. Now, you know, one of the things that they say in this blog post, very frankly, is that running a node is expensive. Yeah, it's expensive on BSV because your blocks are huge, and validating all of the transactions in there, making sure that you're paying for the bandwidth that's required, and all of the storage that's required, and all of the validation that's required. It's very expensive. In fact, they go on to say, our new instance will cost thousands of dollars per month to operate. Thousands of dollars per month. Okay, on Bitcoin, you could do this literally on a Raspberry Pi with like maybe 128 gigabyte SD card, which costs at this point like $20. And the Raspberry Pi maybe $30 and $50, not per month, but you know, like, and that'll last you many years. And this is running it in prune mode, not keeping the entire history, but just the UTXO set, which is I think around 9 or 10 gigabytes or so.
I'm still running a full node on a $300 laptop that I bought 3 years ago on Amazon.
Yeah, as long as you the real limitation for any modern desktop is usually hard drive space. I mean, which on Bitcoin is around 200 gigabytes or so. If you keep a TX index, it's going to be around 250 or something like that. But with BSV, you're getting like a gigameg, so to speak. You know, like every block. So I mean, it can get absolutely enormous, and the bandwidth costs and things like that get crazy. There was another BitMEX article, I think, a couple weeks ago about how they had a hard fork, and it ended up in 2 chains because, you know, like the blocks were huge and somebody mined on the other one and so on. So this is the insanity of this article is really in this part of the article, which is that basically Ryan X Charles argues that you don't really need to run your full node. You could just trust other people to validate things for you and run an SPV. Yeah, you can do that. But essentially, that means that if your counterparty is that centralized party, they can completely screw you over.
But Jimmy, what does that say, right? Like Ryan X Charles probably runs the biggest company on the BSV network, and he is saying that I want to trust someone else. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's essentially the case for pretty much every altcoin, isn't it? I mean, like, you're trusting them for in a variety of ways, but in this particular way, it's about validating your transaction. If you're not running your own full node and you're not fully validating the transaction yourself, then people can screw you over, and you can have stuff like 2x, and you can have corporate takeover and things like that, and you would never know. And there could be a giant inflation in there, or they can reverse your transaction and do all the same things that fiat currency can do. And they seem to think it's a feature, which is the insane part of this article. But that said, I mean, this is the same guy that thought Craig Wright was Jesus or something. So, you know, which I find highly offensive, but, you know, whatever, he can believe whatever he wants. It's just, you know, he's kind of crazy. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, Ryan X. Charles has always notoriously pivoted to the more centralized coin. You know, like he was working, he had his project on Bitcoin. Then he was like, okay, Bitcoin's too expensive. I'm moving to Litecoin. And then he moved to Bitcoin Cash. Or I don't know if there was a other progression in there, but he's always supported the dumbest thing. He's always
So where do you think he's going next? Ripple or Ethereum?
neither. No way. They're too good for him. The guy is like literally useless. You know, he always says ridiculous dumb shit. Money Button at least has decent branding, I guess you could say, but I doubt very many people use it. I think that if he does, it'll be to whoever pays him more money, so it'll just be something, maybe Tron. I don't know.
All right, guys. Hey, so we do have some people, and some people are concerned about what may happen to Bitcoin after the halving. Any general thoughts? Like, I personally do think that some hash rate will come off the network after this halving. Hash rate really ramped up. Lots of miners with the price rising earlier this year. Lots of miners put as much hash rate as they could online, trying to get that last 12.5 Bitcoin reward. When that gets cut in half, especially if the price of Bitcoin does not go significantly higher, if the price of Bitcoin is hovering, around 7,000, 8,000 or lower at the time of the halving, I think a lot of hash rate will come offline, and transactions might get a little slow. Transactions might get a little expensive until everything normalizes. Your thoughts?
I don't think we're gonna have a problem. I think the price will probably recover, and that'll probably what solves it. I mean, there might be volatility at times, maybe for a month or two, but I think in general that the costs to support the mining hash rate will probably be reflected in the price, despite the halving of the reward. There could be a little bit of volatility in that. You may see some smaller miners, give up, and then the price recover. So there might be some damage regardless, because who knows how well miners plan into the future. But I think that larger miners these days, I hope and assume they've become better at dealing with the volatility of the price, better at being able to hold coin long enough to sell it at a reasonable price. And I think that a lot of miners are probably investors, not just trying to sell all of the Bitcoin they get every day.
Yeah, the big thing to realize about this is that Bitcoin in itself is pretty self-correcting. So if a lot of hash rate drops off and you get like 15-minute blocks instead of 10-minute blocks or something like that, then what's going to happen is that the fees are going to go up, and more miners are going to want to come on the network in order to try to get some of those nice juicy fees. And once that happens, then it tends to even out. Now, it's tricky because miners tend to be locked into long-term contracts. So when you get mining equipment, you need to use it up as quickly as possible, because hash rate tends to go up over time. So there's no real incentive to take it off, because the capital cost is already, the fixed costs are already in there. And the marginal cost of the electricity that they need, that's also got some sort of like a contract with some sort of electricity company, and they're not gonna, they usually give you some large block of electricity because you're buying it at such a cheap price. So you need longer contracts in order to do it. So there isn't as much motivation to take the hash rate offline as you would think. If they're already locked into a lot of these contracts, and given that the supply is going to decrease, at least the new daily supply, or what we call stock flow, is going to increase as a result of the halving. The people that are buying a lot of these coins off the miners, well, they're not going to have as much supply, so it'll get bidded up and so on. So in a sense, it'll be self-correcting, I think, and not as much, not as many miners are going to take hash rate off, and the ones, and even if that happens, the economic forces are such and the game theory such that that they're going to want to come back on because either the price increases or because there are more fees as a result of traffic congestion and so on.
Yeah, I mean, as far as being worried about what will happen after the halving, I definitely don't think there's anything to worry about. I definitely don't think we're going to see like half of the hashing drop away and then the blocks, blocks take a long time to confirm until it corrects the difficulty. I think that miners know this is coming. This is a predictable event, and it should be no surprise to any remotely professional miner.
All right, so let me throw my conspiracy hat on there for a second. So I do believe that some hash rate will probably come off the network after that because it won't be profitable. And if the blocks do get a little bit slower and a little bit more expensive, do you think all of these Bcashers plus Bcashers plus everybody else are already preparing coordinated spam attacks right around and immediately after the halving to make it look worse than it actually is?
Maybe.
I think that they probably are concerned with other things that would be more effective at making their coin survive and get liquidity than attacking Bitcoin. I don't think they're going to convince any, mining operations have become very large and very expensive. And I don't think the cheap trick is going to make a bunch of significant hash power move over to Bitcoin Cash or through any means of, social or sock puppeting or, DDoS attacks, etc.
Yeah,
All
a spam attack is a DOS vector. But that said, it costs a lot of money to do, at least on Bitcoin, and especially because the Bitcoin price is so much higher than these other coins. To spam Bitcoin, you're going to have to pay a lot of fees in order to do it. And in a sense, that subsidizes the mining hash rate coming back on Bitcoin. So, I mean, in a sense, you really can't win as a conspiracy theorist trying to take Bitcoin down, because if you're subsidizing the miners on Bitcoin, there's going to be more people on Bitcoin, mining. So that's going to, if you're BCH1 or BCH2, you're essentially taking away hash rate from your own coin in order to do that. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, and no matter which way you cut, you're going to cut yourself as a result.
Yeah, Jimmy makes a good point. I mean, a lot of Bitcoiners are traders, and traders love their conspiracy theories. They like to talk about price manipulation and manipulation of this or that. But manipulation is expensive. To pump a coin, it's a great risk. To pump the hash rate, to subsidize anything to do with a coin is not cheap. And if you're wrong, or if you're not right for long enough, you can definitely lose money by manipulating prices and manipulating hash rates and things like that with coins.
Yeah, this is how Bitmain lost all their money.
Yeah,
that's true. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. I am going to take a quick look at the price. So once again, I just want to point out that currently Bcash is up $3.50 from its initial bid when it opened up for sale. A couple of weeks ago, it was down 20% against the US dollar, which means it was down against 98% of all fiat currencies as of 3 weeks ago. And at the end of last year, it was basically down against 99% of all fiat currencies, maybe not the Venezuelan bolivar, and maybe not, probably down more than the Turkish lira even. So maybe everything except for Venezuelan and maybe Iraqi currency. Against Bitcoin, they are still down over 70% from inception, with a drawdown of down to 80% a couple of weeks ago at their lows. Just a very quick look at Bitcoin. Wasn't really going to be a price show, but everyone's expecting it at the end of my shows. We are on a little bit of an upswing here. I wasn't too surprised. Again, according to my metrics, I like sequential. Hasn't been great this year, but I did expect a bit of a bounce coming off this line 2 days ago, and here we are bouncing up. Where do I expect this to go? I see resistance in the 10,600 to the $10,700 range. If we can break this, then I would potentially be looking for new all-time highs. But I think breaking this area is going to be a little bit of a struggle. The 12-hour chart shows the same picture. As we approach 11,000, I start to become bullish. Right now, I'm kind of neutral. And I actually would like to get John's take. I mean, John, I don't know if you're still a trader. I know you were a trader. You have lots of criticism of TA, even though I believe you have used it in the past for your trading. So this could be a different debate. The 15-minute chart with sequential has actually been really, really good. Someone pointed it out to me because they've been trading it, buying it right here off the setup trend line with a 9 reversal candle, getting out right here on this 9 here at the top. There was another 9 right here at the top. Didn't really lead to a big drawdown, but another one here. Again, just a 1 to 4 candle correction, and now we've been going higher. We have not had any 9s on the 15-minute time frame until right now. So those that have been using the 15-minute time frame to time their trades, they've been doing actually pretty well the last few days. John, any thoughts on price and TA?
Yeah, sure. Well, just to note, my criticisms are mostly about trading in general. I don't think people should trade, especially amateurs. I understand if trading is your career and you're able to be disciplined and able to have good habits for, planning your trade, when to enter, when to exit, etc. And I actually do like TA. One of my favorite parts and what I liked about trading when I did trade was basically charting. I love charting. A big part of my career was graphic design, so it was interesting to be able to play with vectors and get some knowledge about price levels. And I like making charts using a lot of curves to be able to find curves in the price pattern, and I like fractal patterns. As far as things like counting 9s, I'll be honest with you, I think it's complete bullshit. I think that it's arbitrary, and if you used a 7 system, you would probably be just as accurate as a 9 system. And in the end, there's just you're just kind of putting a number on randomness. And yes, a trend will last a certain amount of time. So as long as your sequential process has enough numbers in it, it'll probably be okay. But I don't think it's any better than randomness. I think that you're much better off using volume levels or other fractal patterns or things like this. I don't think fractal patterns are something you can rely on in Bitcoin, especially on short time frames. But if you zoom out, I was looking at the chart a few days ago. If you zoom out, I think maybe to a daily, so we can see the last peak. Yeah. The last peak at 20K, so we can see both peaks.
On a daily, weekly might be better.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Weekly, daily, whatever you have to zoom out to. But I think that we could either be at a pattern like the top there. Right now we're making a small fractal that looks very similar to the kind of breakdown from before. So we could see. I'm just speculating, but we could see a 9,500 become the new 6,500, where we kind of level out and it kind of consolidates in the $9,500 range, and then either we pop back up or we pop back down to a lower level and kind of run people. But I don't think it can last very long, because honestly, I don't see us dropping much lower than 7,500, and even if we do, not lasting that long. I think that we'll recover in time for next year. Maybe we'll see some sell-offs for taxes for the end of the fiscal year or such. But I think by the time we have the halving, I would not be surprised at all if we're back at 20K or higher.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And I kind of agree with you that charting is just one part of the equation. The guy that created this system of the 9s, I once heard him say, a good indicator and good TA is only 20% of success. The rest is money management and controlling your emotions.
Yeah, and that's the part that most people suck at, and that's why I tell them not to trade, because being disciplined is extremely difficult when you're an emotional human being, and which humans by nature are emotional, and where brains are trained to use our emotions to make us cause actions to stop unpleasant feelings or danger or whatever. So you're always going to end up doing something dumb unless you're very disciplined.
All right. On this note, hey, travel plans. Jimmy and I are going to be at BitBlock Boom in Dallas, Texas. I will be in Toronto for the Futurist right before this is happening in a couple of weeks. John, where can people, run into you? What, you going to any events in the near future?
I think the next one is actually in Romania. There are some people coming out to Romania for a conference in Cluj, which I'll be at. There's also right after that and right near that, there's the Lightning Conference in Berlin. That should be interesting. So I'll be there with some other people from BitRefill, and at least 1 or 2 people from BitRefill will be speaking there. I don't know if I'll be there, but this is a conference in Riga that will have some BitRefill people. But yeah, we'll have a few more conferences in the next couple of months, and then I think things get quiet again until next spring and summer.
All right, very cool. You guys can check out my calendar. I think I finalized it. I've been back and forth on that Romania conference. I may be missing it. I may be out in Japan instead. I will know for sure by end of this weekend. Hey guys, I do have a workshop coming up this Sunday. I think the 4th is Sunday, and it's specific on risk and money management in your trading. No TA, just risk and money management. That other 80% part that John and I were just talking about. I'll talk more about the options workshop that I'm going to do as well. That just went up. I haven't even described it yet. Not going to do it here. And Unconfiscatable is back. That's going to be in Vegas. You can check out the website here. That's going to be in Vegas 20 to 23. Jimmy, I believe, is coming back. John was there for Understanding Bitcoin. I'm not sure if you want to come all the way out to Vegas, but you will be absolutely welcome there, John. And I am putting together a financial summit in Bali. I'm not going to talk about it much on this stream, but please check out the page, read about it. It's at a high-end resort. And it's going to have to do a lot with money management and trading. And my goal is to try and connect hedge funds with talented traders. That's basically the goal of the event. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it here. This has been a great show. Thank you all for joining. This was we didn't talk about the user-activated soft fork much. Maybe we'll do that on another show. But hey, Bcash, second birthday, congratulations. Maybe, just maybe, there will be another one of these shows next year if you manage to last that long. I give the odds of that. Maybe 60% you'll still be here, unfortunately. But the year after, that might flip. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Final thoughts?
Thanks for having me, Tone. It was good to catch up and good to reminisce about the Bitcoin Cash days and UASF and all that. Maybe I'll see you in February at Unconfiscatable. I'll talk to you later about that. But otherwise, I'll catch up with you online or at another conference sometime.
All right, and I got nothing more to say. This song is done.
Bye, guys.